That was really something back there. Did you see it? Both drivers dead. Middle-aged man, young woman in her early 20s. Her whole life in front of her. Not anymore. I just wanted to watch for a minute. I suppose you could say it's my ego. Admiring my work, you know? You see, I was in both of those vehicles right up until the brakes locked up. I'm all the things that people do or think about doing when what they ought to be doing is driving. I'm your cell phone. I'm your MP3 player. I'm the quick glance into your briefcase or your purse. I'm every distraction, every stray thought, every momentary glance away from the road. I'm all those things, and I'm riding along in almost every car and truck on the road nowadays. I'm sitting inside the thing from the moment you buy it. Standard equipment, like airbags. I ride along with practically every one of you, almost every day, helping the law of averages catch up to people like those two. That's all it is, the law of averages, playing the odds. After all, every time you let me distract you, you're playing your percentages game. And the percentages always catch up with you sooner or later. Ask anyone who ever stayed in a casino for just one more hand. I've got to admit, that is one of my better efforts. Not just because of the immediate loss of life and property, although that is a respectable bit of damage, but it's not even over yet. Look back there. See how the police have the lane blocked? They're steering all the traffic around it. Every one of those drivers is looking over at the wreck. Who wouldn't, right? They're not watching the policeman, or, you know, the road. They're too distracted. I'm very proud of that. But hey, I shouldn't take all the credit. Most of it belongs to our two drivers. That little car right there, the driver's name was Allison Reese. Allison was 21 years old. Good kid, sweet kid. Her folks didn't have the money for her to go away to college, so she was in her second year at the local community college, studying business. She also worked about 30 hours a week at the local pharmacy. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she would babysit her twin cousins while her aunt was at work. Still living at home? Well, she was. Right about now, her parents are answering the door. Police officer asking if he can come inside for a minute. After all sorts of people suffer from any automobile accident, whether they were in the car or not. The other one was Oscar Thompson, 58 years old, technician for Fabtech Industries. Goes from plant to plant checking the equipment, inspections, calibrations, that kind of thing. Worked a lot of double shifts, especially late shifts. You know, times when the equipment can be down for a little while. Lived alone, except for a little dog he took in a couple years ago. Beagle mix named Wally. In a little while, Wally is going to start wondering when someone is going to feed him. Oscar and Allison were both busy people. My favorite kind. You see, the busier someone is, the more often I get to ride with them. And this is a great time in history for me. You know, 50 years ago, I didn't ride with as many of you. Fewer cars, shorter trips, and nowhere near as much to think about. Sure, maybe a car had a radio. And yeah, sometimes I could talk someone into not paying attention while looking for an address. But nothing like nowadays. So many more cars, so many more interesting distractions inside the cars. My work gets easier every year. And I rode with Allison and Oscar almost every day, reminding them of all the things they needed to do. And today was no different. Here, I'll show you. Let's turn back the clock to earlier today. Okay, right now Allison has just finished her hours at the pharmacy. She's got a couple errands to run before her nighttime accounting class. Her boss kept her working a few minutes late to double-check some inventory paperwork. She knew she wasn't gonna have much time to make it to class, but she didn't complain. Remember, I told you, she's a good kid. Hey, Allison, you know how your teacher is about latecomers? You better hurry. Come on, go around this guy. Good. Now, what are the 3 formulas you're supposed to have memorized for tonight? Do you know them?
Total compensation equals C, total number of man-hours worked equals W, time, or something like that.
You see? It's so easy. Too much for her to think about, too little time to get it all done. Rush, rush, rush. You people make it so easy for me to get into the car with you. The thing is, you never realize how lucky you are most of the time. You have no idea how demanding driving a 1-ton vehicle at a mile a minute is. Do you know that every 2 miles, the average driver makes about 400 observations and makes about 40 different decisions based on those observations? And for about every 40 decisions, they make a mistake. They usually don't even recognize their mistake because it usually doesn't amount to anything. But they add up. Hold on a second. Hey, Allison, Don't you think you should call your folks and let them know that this class usually runs late? You wouldn't want them to worry.
Hi, Mom.
I love cell phones. Love them. They've proven in study after study that cell phones affect you the same way that a couple shots of hard liquor do. They slow reaction time. They limit your focus. And the studies have proven that it doesn't matter whether the phone is handheld or hands-free. They're all equally dangerous.
I'm on my way home right now.
But people who would never dream about getting behind the wheel drunk have no problem using their cell phones while they drive. Anybody who does that is working for me. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you. I'm thankful for anything that takes your eyes or your mind off the road for just 2 seconds. That's all I need, 2 seconds. Sometimes even less. You make enough 2-second mistakes, and I win. 60 miles per hour is 88 feet per second. Even when you're paying attention, it takes between 1 and 2 seconds for you to recognize a problem, and another second or two to react. Which means that most incidents eat up the entire length of a football field, even if you do everything perfectly. If I can take your mind off the road for even 1 extra second, that 88 feet can be huge. Just because most of those mistakes don't amount to anything, doesn't matter. My job is to help you make enough mistakes so that we have what's called the inopportune moment. Inopportune means inconvenient or untimely. And an inopportune moment isn't necessarily something that you create. But if you open the door and invite me in, well then. You're the only one to blame for that. The one time that you're glancing at your cell phone when the vehicle in the other lane blows a tire. It's not your fault that the tire blew, but it's 100% your fault that you took your eyes off the road.
Love you too, Mom. All right, bye-bye.
People always talk about luck, but when you're making dozens of mistakes all day long, you're taking luck out of the picture. Take some coworker. She's texting her friends while driving, and she gets into an accident. Surprise, surprise. And then she says, this is terrible. The officer said it was because I was
texting. But I text and drive all the time. I just had a moment of bad luck is all.
I love that. Keep telling yourself that, because the truth isn't that you had a bit of bad luck. The truth is that all of your good luck has finally run out. Almost. So here I am in the car with Allison. I've got her reciting formulas, making cell phone calls, pretty much thinking about everything except the most important job she has at the moment, the safe operation of her vehicle. You have to remember, Allison's not the only one I'm riding with today. I'm riding with almost everyone out here. But for today, the other really important driver was Oscar. Remember I said that Allison made my work so easy? Well, Oscar is a bit of a pushover himself. For one thing, working all those late night shifts, he never gets any sleep. Boy, it sure is going to be good to get some shut-eye after this shift, huh? What did you get yesterday? 3-4 hours? He's so tired. And that by itself does great things for me. But it's all the other stuff that people do to help themselves when they feel drowsy. Because the only really smart thing, pulling over, is the last thing they're going to do. They play music real loud. Which, of course, takes their eyes and mind off the road. Maybe a cup of coffee will do the trick. Hey, Oscar, you don't look very alert. Have a cup of coffee. Whoa. Almost. And now you throw in the pagers beeping, the cell phones ringing, and it's like I'm the one driving these vehicles. And Allison and Oscar are just little machines cranking out a mistake every few seconds. And when a couple of those mistakes come together, well, this is one I'm especially fond of. I was driving home with this guy, and this guy was really angry. And a pickup goes flying past him on the right, which is, of course, bad driving. And the intelligent thing to do when on the road with a bad driver is to give him plenty of space, right? But this is what I love about anger. Anger usually pushes intelligence right out the window. So my angry friend floors it to catch up with this pickup. And on the back of it is one of those little bumper stickers. How's my driving? Call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. So I suggest to him that he should report this guy. So here's this pickup doing at least 15 over the limit. and my angry friend pulling up way too close, squinting to read all those little numbers, and then he only needs one more little nudge. I put into his head that he should report this guy right now. So he pulls out his cell phone and starts trying to enter all those numbers. Of course, later on, talking to the police, my angry friend is trying to explain that the reason the nose of his car is in the bed of the pickup is that the other guy slammed on his brakes too fast. There were no major injuries, which was a disappointment to me. But it was still a good piece of work. Anger, following too closely, staring at a bumper sticker instead of the road, using a cell phone. You people are so helpful. Anyway, back to our story. Allison is stressed out, but finally on her way to night class. Her car is now about 2 miles away from Oscar's, who's headed to another plant. 2 minutes, give or take. Hey, you're not gonna do well on your quiz if you're totally stressed out. Where's that CD you like so much that always calms you down? Now they're about 90 seconds apart. I've got to get these two together. The north side plant, the press inspections. What's the name of that street again? Is it Westway or Nestway? Boy, what crummy handwriting. Is that a W or an N? And now in Allison's car, she's found her music. Let's keep encouraging her to do things for herself. Hey, that cute guy in accounting class has been checking you out lately. You're gonna need some lipstick. Whatever you want is always in the bottom of the bag, isn't it? Keep looking. You'll find it. The road's right there. It's not going anywhere, and there's no car in front of you. And while she's adjusting the mirror, putting on her lipstick and looking at it instead of the road, we need to give one more nudge to Oscar. Wait a second. Weren't you out to the same plant 2 months ago? And the shift supervisor couldn't get his hands on the work order and it turned into this whole big thing? You don't want to go through all that again. Is this the same place? Do you still have the work order from 2 months ago? 20 seconds now. Time for the final touch. Something in Allison's car that she didn't even cause to happen. Oh, great. You don't have time to answer your phone. Just check caller ID, see who it is. Go ahead, look. Allison's eyes go to the phone. That's a second. Oscar drops his clipboard. Papers go everywhere. That's a second. The cars are about 8 seconds from one another. Oscar reaches for his papers, and it causes his truck to drift. Allison's eyes are on her phone and takes the turn too wide. Oscar glances up, knows this is bad. Another day, another dollar. I couldn't do it without you, you know. There are so many ways to keep me out of your car, and so many reasons to do it. You already know most of them. If you're tired, don't drive. If you need to check a map or your directions, wait until you can pull over. If you own a cell phone, either ignore it, or if that's too hard, turn it off before you get in the car. After all, studies have shown that drivers who talk on cell phones are as accident-prone as the ones who drive drunk. If you're going to want a particular CD or MP3 file, find it and load it before you pull out of your driveway. Don't take your eyes off the road to talk to your passengers. And don't stare at your kids in their car seats. You buckle them in, they haven't gone anywhere. Don't eat or drink while you drive. Because like I said before, driving is a dangerous full-time job with dozens of critical decisions to be made every minute. You and your ton of automobile are often covering 88 feet per second. Every time you allow your mind to wander, you're just gambling, hoping you can beat the odds. And someday, you'll gamble and lose. If you keep letting me ride along with you, then someday the inopportune moment will come. And when it does, you won't be the only one who suffers. It's really one moment that becomes a lifetime of pain and loss for a number of people. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way. Look at how the smallest adjustment can make the biggest difference. Like Allison and Oscar. Just one less mistake would have saved both their lives. Imagine Allison's cell phone being turned off. Now she doesn't hear the incoming call, so her eyes stay on the road and her car stays in her lane. She sees Oscar's truck drift, so she slows down. When he overcorrects, he comes into her lane, but it happens 73 feet further away because she slowed down. He regains control in the nick of time.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
But it didn't happen that way, did it? So you see, it would be so easy to keep me out. But you don't want to keep me out. You like me. You like your distractions. You like your cell phones, your MP3s, and your coffee. And shoot, you've been driving for years. You can take a second to fix your hair. You can't live without me. But I can promise you this. You can't live with me either. I'll see all of you real soon. Sooner than you think.